Well, it's great to be with you all. You're kind of my old backyard fly club when I lived up in Gates on the North Santiam. It's good to make that connection again. So anyhow, we're going to be delving into the iPhone photography thing that we all do because we have a phone on us all the time, and we might as well try to make our photos go from good to better to best. So hopefully, I'll cover a lot of things, little tips and tricks today that'll help you. If something you're kind of interested in, but I keep moving on. You can just take a picture of the screen or what you're looking at, and I'll remind you. And also have my email at the end. If you have a question later on, please get a hold of me. So here we go. This is our phones. Now I'm primarily an iPhone guy, but a lot of technology is shared, and Samsung phones and Google phones have nice cameras. Some of actual composition and basic photography is the same no matter what kind of camera you use. But I'm generally iPhone person, and that's you kind of roll with it at that point. And this is just a close up of a nice brown trout, and I use that black line around the eye, where it goes from black to gold. And if that is just tack sharp, then it's a pro shot, whether you use a phone or a Nikon or a Canon, and this is an iPhone shot, and it's just absolutely tack sharp. So what we're dealing with from about an iPhone 12 to the present, even some of the early ones were still quite sharp, but you have a lot more information on the sensors now. But this is a publishable picture just because how sharp it is, and basically just nice colors and all that. So when you have your iPhone with you, you're shooting a pro camera. And all of these would be very simple 1 second photos where where a fish is in the water, it's just brought up, quick photo and let go. So not much has to be done with making settings and focusing or anything like that. The iPhone does it all for you. So back in the day, sure, I had a nice Canon or two or three, real nice pro cameras, very expensive, and you drop them in the water, they're dead. And then I had some of these Olympus Tough cameras, and they've kind of crept up in price to where, they're pretty serious now, but they're quite waterproof, droppable. It's a great, as the name says, tough camera. That they do a pretty darn good job. That's a picture with the Olympus Tough, and it's not bad. But that's a picture, underwater picture with an iPhone, and it's just got way better scale, detail, color balanced and stuff. It's really, really nice. And this, I use an iPhone 12 in an underwater housing, which I'll show you a little bit later, but they're really good. They're totally professional quality to a degree, meaning that they don't blow up as big as some pro cameras. You can't do a billboard on the highway with it and have great detail, but you can do large enough blow ups, almost 20 inches or so, and have great detail. Now, there's a time for a pro camera, and this would be one when you're doing wildlife, birds, and things like that. There's always going to be a home for a long lens and macro lenses and things, but probably 90% of what I do, I could do with an iPhone now and not have to drag around a giant, heavy waterproof case with cameras and lenses and flash. It's pretty neat. So there's 4 Fly Fisherman magazine covers and a shot that the Fly Fishing International used. And these were all iPhone pictures. And the person holding those big brown trout is Ross Purnell, the publisher and editor of Fly Fisherman. And for years, I've contributed to Fly Fisherman and many other magazines, and they didn't even know they were getting iPhone photos. And so when Ross and I did a New Zealand trip, and we got those 2 photos on the left, actually, the top 3 photos were all from that trip. And then we'd gotten to the lodge, we head out to a helicopter, and he goes, "Where's all your gear?" And I said, "Ross, I hate to tell you this, but it's right here in my hand. This is it." He goes, "Have you been selling us iPhone pictures for the last few years?" I go, "Yeah." And then he was kind of, "Oh no, this could get ugly," but it was great. We got really good stuff, and he's a believer now. So what you have when you have a smartphone in your hand, it has all these different things. Even though the flash is really not that great, it does a little bit, but the self timer is really fun to use. There's different filters for before and after shooting, lots of editing, which we'll go into, and then of course sharing, which is sort of bragging, really, when you want to send your friends fish pictures and different family shots and things like that. It's so easy to take a picture, pop it in an email or a text, and away you go. And then all the function modes will go into the slow motion, panorama, and portrait, and all the others. And of course, it has that turnaround lens for when you want to do a selfie, and it has burst and motor drive. So it does a lot without having all the other stuff that you have to, attach and detach. The one thing I'm going to start out at first with is using your volume button as the shutter, because as you know, most of the time you use the little white button on the bottom, and that will take a picture. But if you go back and think about the first two trout shots I showed you, that's just grabbing the fish underwater and lifting it up, and then having your thumb on top of the side of the camera and just using the shutter button. I'll try to show it to you right there. You're depressing that. The two volume buttons will take the picture, so you can shoot real low to the water, and it's also good for overhead and anything. So just get comfortable using the volume buttons as a shutter. In fact, you might just take your phone out now and go along with me and take some pictures that way. And don't forget, man, it comes in really handy. Another thing I like to do is, as you can see, that little pull down there. It's a nice picture of the Yellowstone River and that duplicate. I hit duplicate quite often because I might want one photo to be cropped, and maybe I could crop it another way. So I'll hit duplicate to make 1, 2, or 3 exact duplicate copies, so I can do different things to each of them. And if it's really a special photo, I would hit duplicate also, just to always have the security of one really good one in the bank. And let me go back. You find duplicate by, when you're in edit mode, that circle, it's up on the upper right, circle with 3 dots inside. It's pretty universal on anything digital, that it means there's a drop down and there's more options. Alt setting, and it's great. I use the 1x a lot. Now on the newer cameras, you've got 0.5 for wide angle. 1 is what you see is what you get, and then it goes all the way up to 20 or more. And I generally use it to about 12. And then past that, I think you lose quite a bit of quality in the photo, but it's okay for, maybe an elk in the distance. You just want to record that moment. It may not make a good print, but you have that option. So from 0.5 to around 12 is still really good tack sharp quality. So here's that brown trout is, again, just lifting it out of the water, thumb on top of the phone, hit the volume button, and you get that low angle, beautiful shot. And it's easy on the fish, and it's easy to do. And then, of course, you've got video mode, and here's some rising fish over on the Owyhee River in the winter. And sometimes just a video is just a nicer way to show what's going on. Some rings in the river are always nice, but when you have movement to it, it's even, I think, a little more fun to share with people. And it's just different, so that we don't do the same thing over and over, add variety to our photos so they don't get boring. And so video, you can also do wide angle, more telephoto, that sort of thing. And then here's just an example of, there's a hopper stationary or a hopper in video. You just incorporate it into your own PowerPoint shows or your own presentations to friends. And slow-mo is fun. It takes a couple seconds to engage, but you start it, and then it clicks into slow-mo. And this would just be some bugs that I sampled, and I sort of turned into a carousel of aquatic insects. It's just something different and something I had never tried before, but really you can't go wrong. You can just try things. And what's the worst that can happen? You delete it. It's no big deal. You know, back in the film days when you shot the best film and had it done in the best labs, it was almost $1 a photo. Excuse me, I got to plug my power cord back in. There we go. But you know, with digital, you can just shoot all you want and keep what you want and get rid of what you want. There's a fun salmon fly shot on the Madison River between the lakes. It's just kind of fun to play around with this stuff. Easy. It takes no real skill. You just put your camera up, let the bug fly out of your hand, and you got it. And panorama mode is really fun. I use it quite a bit. And generally, when I see people use panorama, they basically take it from the beginning of the shot all the way around until it ends, which is about 180 degrees. And so the top picture is close to that 180 degrees. Both of these are on the Henry's Fork. The longer the panorama is, the less depth it has. So for me, it doesn't have that many uses. It's kind of fun. It's good to look at, but you hardly ever sell one of these or need to use it in a blow up or something. So I generally do about a half pano or maybe a 2/3 pano, and then you get more depth. Trying to get to say postcard size or something in length and width. But once you have a little more depth, it's a more usable photo. All fun. You can have all you want. You can do them any way you want. But I like the depth that a shorter panorama gives you. This is a lodge in Iceland, and it's really long. It would take a pano to get it all in, unless I walked way back down the valley. And then the mountains are nice. That reflection, that's Lake Wenatchee. No, I'm sorry, that's Lake Chelan in Washington. And you know, I was there with my camera on 0.5, and I'd look and go, well, I got 2 mountains in, but a panorama was the only way to get them all in, and just works out really well. Fun to do. And if it doesn't work, yeah, you just delete it and try something else. Never seen anyone do this either. When you put it on pano mode, generally speaking, it's horizontal panorama, but you can also do a vertical panorama too. It's great in the redwoods. It's really interesting when you have great clouds and things up high. And so this was in the Seattle Center with a glass exhibit, and it's just fun, just something different. So try a vertical panorama every once in a while. Here's our buddy Bob Ross. And so he's going to be my model for the different types of filters you can use. And every once in a while I use them. I mean, they're maybe nice to have, but not, you don't have to have them, but every once in a while. Now, if you look through, I put these 3 different ones up there. There's the original, but that vivid warm usually for me comes out the best. I like it because it pops a little more color and it's just a little lighter, and you can go all the way down to that silver tone, which is basically kind of an antique black and white. But you can do this after you take the picture, and usually filters are designated by those 3 circles on the bottom of different shades, and you can scroll through your filters, pick one you like. And if I'm going too fast on something, just remember everything here is on YouTube, so you can just Google filters for an iPhone and you'll get tutorials forever. But they're pretty handy to use once in a while, especially in my case, I use it for 2 things: brown trout, if they have some good color, and fall colors. Both of them can be popped a little bit brighter, a little more impact with a filter. Now here's just a funny picture. It's just me holding a popper against the door. I tried to make it look kind of bad. Basically, it's very amateurish. But this is when you use portrait mode. Okay, so you got photo mode, and then next door is portrait. So you move your settings to portrait. And then when you do, you have some lighting options right above the word portrait, and you can put your finger on that and scroll in kind of a half moon, and you'll come up with a whole bunch of different lighting scenarios. And this one happens to be stage light, which is the second to last one. And so what happens there's the natural picture. It's not very interesting. There's a door and a doorknob, not very good. So take the picture and look at that. Comes out like a studio shot. It's the cheapest way to do studio photography without a studio. And so you can, that's indoors, just a light bulb light. It's easy. And then there's that stage light mono. Oh, that's still stage light mono. And here's a person standing across from me at a campfire and just standing there having a beer. And then that turns out to be kind of a neat shot of nothing, just someone standing there, but the effects are very nice. You can see how, where I think it says Patagonia on his waders, it's really, really vivid. Laces on his boots, the hemostats, any hair, mustaches, beards really get sort of super intense focus and sharp. And then you can, you take your finger, you can control those light settings. You move over to the very end, and that's high key light mono. And don't ask me what it means, but maybe in a theater production, they would know what this kind of lighting meant. But the same exact picture takes away the black background, and you have this white background. And that comes in handy at times. It really is. It's good. There's both of them together. And this is something you just play with. You don't have to, wait for a special moment. Take pictures of your dog, kids, grandkids, and you'll get some nice effects. This was at a wedding. If you've been to Trout Hunter on the Henry's Fork in Island Park. And so this was the manager serving champagne at the wedding. And I said, I didn't know her. I just said, hey, can I just try this new thing on my phone for a second? And she was like, oh God, I'm kind of busy. And I took the picture and I showed it to her. Like, wow, would you send me a copy of that? So it's really fun. It's really easy. And it kind of makes you look like a professional. But this is what I meant about, say, facial hair or dogs that are really wire hair types. It just really does a good job. It makes contrast really vivid because it's a real eye-popping black and white. Hey, there's a couple people you probably know. Tom Bai on the left, he has Drake magazine. Jeff Courier in the middle, Brian Gregson on the right. But great models, scruffy fishing bums. They're the best. The portrait mode is generally thought of as the old standby for classic food photography, and it has been for years. So lots of the food magazines have done this forever, and we do it too. If you order an incredible meal, a big huge burger somewhere, and you have it on portrait mode, it's very important though to tap focus on the front of the food you're taking a picture of. It might select something and it might not be quite right for you, but you want to tap focus. So the best focus is right at the front of, say, a big burger or something, and then it slowly blurs out at the back. And I'll show you in a minute a way to even control some of that and add or subtract focus. So on a nice trout, it's fun to do I call it kind of a pancake shot where the fish is flat on the water. One side of the gill is in the water, and you tap focus on the eyeball and shoot it in portrait, and you get the blur in the background. It's just a nice effect. You can, in 1.5 seconds, take a portrait shot, click on photo, take a straight photo where it's all in focus, so you have both. But this is easy. It's not hard on the fish. And it's just another kind of fun example of doing a variety of ways to present your photos. So here, let me explain this because it looks a little complicated. The picture on the far left, these are all fly boxes, obviously. And there's a square, yellow square in the lower left-hand corner of each picture, and that's the focus. So I tap there, and that's where the picture is going to focus, or the camera is going to focus the picture, and then it'll blur out in the background. So look just below that, and where it says f1.4, that's back from our old film days of f-stops, and there's a slider there. Okay, so I think this just defaults to 1.4, and that's a very short amount of focus, maybe an inch of focus before the blur starts. And that can be very handy in certain situations. Now the next one, and this is all the same photo, but you have this option when you take a picture in portrait mode and you bring it up, you tap on it so it comes up so you can edit it. And as soon as you hit edit, this slider and f-stop thing comes off. But that's on the newer cameras. If you have an old camera, you won't have it. But this is almost worth buying a new camera for. So I'm looking at the picture I took, just one of them, not four of them, just one. And I take that slider to 2.8. Now I've got, 2.5, 3 inches of focus. I take the slider, move it to the third photo, 6.3. You can see where the focus is now going back a row of fly boxes or more. And then if you slide it all the way to f16, the fourth photo, the far right, that focus is back almost to the end of all those fly boxes. So you can adjust where you want. You can adjust how much depth of focus you want, but you can also tap the picture and change where the focus is. This is pretty wild stuff. I don't know how they do it, but instead of using that lower left-hand corner front first fly box, I could tap in the middle, and that would be where my focus is generated, and then the blur is behind that. So in that case, you'd have blur in front and in back. So I know that's a lot of mumbo jumbo, but it's easy to do when you start playing around with it. Just take a picture of anything on a table for practice. Start at the beginning, focus on the front one, bring it up, hit edit, adjust a few in the slider there, and away you go. It's pretty fun. It's one of the more mind-boggling new features on iPhones. Okay, here's a couple. This is basically the same picture, but the one on the left is obviously a throwaway. It's totally a delete. It's overexposed from my lamp on my time table, and it's horrible. But you can fix this in an instant. So you tap focus on the rim of the popper, and then there's that little sun at the halfway point in that yellow box. And if you just take your finger and scroll down on that sun, so you can see on the right-hand side, it's down almost to the halfway point below the middle line. So I've scrolled it down a little bit. Look how it's darker and the colors are right, and there's none of that harsh glare. So if you're in a situation where it's just blinding light or your subject is got way too much light on it, you can take that little sun and bring it down. You can also, if it's a little dark, you can also bring it up a little bit. And again, I just want to tell you, if you see something that's interesting to you, you just take a picture of what you're looking at and save it for later, and then it'll remind you to work on it at home. Okay. iPhones don't do a really great job at macro, but you can kind of bend the rules a little bit to get good macro shots. Basically, whether it's telephoto or macro, that's a real specialty lens. And in something that's only 3/8 of an inch fat, you're not going to get a telephoto in there anywhere. And getting macro is kind of the same. It's hard to do with such a short focal length lens. So that picture you're looking at right now, it says original, and that's just a little squala nymph. And I just wanted to do this picture and get the weather, the terrain, and the bug all in the same shot. And so I didn't just go right up in its face and take a picture, because those will generally be a little bit blurry. And you can try shooting on the default one or try it on two, but move it back. But I purposely go back a little more to guarantee that that nymph will be in focus. I don't care if it's kind of small at this point. I just want to make sure it's really tack sharp. So there it is. That's the original. It's not really a macro shot, is it? It's kind of a landscape with my hand and a bug, but it's going to be a macro shot. So the next thing I do, and down on the original shot, the one in white, down by edit, see that star that I put there? So you push edit. And I know people who are just afraid to push edit. They take a picture and they just live with it forever. They're just afraid of editing, but you really can't do anything wrong, especially if you do duplicate. Then you can do anything wild and crazy. So now I've pressed edit. That black background shot comes up, and and you see there's three things on the bottom. This is an older camera. Now there's more things down there, but on the left-hand side, there's a little yellow dot under that circle with the dots around it. And if I press that, I have options. And it's in almost all iPhones that once you hit edit, and you have options of doing cropping and filters, and then just adjusting light and saturation, things like that. So the main one is that one with the white dot in the middle and the dots around it. And so I'm going to use the scroller. It starts off with some sort of automatic thing on the first. I've never actually used it. And the next one's exposure. So I see how I've moved that slider from where the white dot is. That's the default original. But I've slid it up 30 points to brighten up the photo. And that takes away some of the shading, shows more of the segmentation on the body, just makes it a little less shadowy. And it took a second, so it's really no big deal. So then I'm going to keep moving on, and I'm going to hit the slider that's got 7 or 8, 10 different things you can do to your picture, from color, saturation, sharpness, all that. And then I'm going to slide over to sharpness and give it a little bump, 20 points. And that's going to really make the antenna detail good. The legs are going to get nice and sharp. It just looks really, really crisp. It's really nice. So the picture's still basically the same. I've just made it a little brighter to show the detail of the bug a little more, and a little sharper so that that detail is sharp. And then I cropped it. So cropping is on the one that says crop at the top. Now at the bottom, I put another star, and there's a yellow dot. That means I'm using it. So it's that sort of tic-tac-toe shape with the 2 arrows going in opposite directions. Well, I guess they're going the same direction. They're on opposite sides. And once you hit crop, you get a frame around your picture, and you can pull in up or down, sideways, diagonal, and get the shape that you want. But by cropping in, it's going to make the picture expand to you, and it'll then kind of go into macro. It wasn't macro yet, but now it's going to go into macro. And there's the finished product. So it's really beautiful detail on that squall and nymph. You can see fingerprints on my hand. Still has the weather and some landscape in the background, but that's how I do macro. Start with a normal, not too close photo. I might brighten it up. I might hit sharpness a little bit, and then I crop in. So when it pops back into real life, it's a nice macro shot. I hope that makes sense. It's a little complicated, but once you get the hang of it, you can do it in seconds. So you can, collect insects, roll rocks over. And now this is a little different because I have a white background with no shadows, and I built my own little aquatic insect studio, and it took about $1. And it's basically a white bucket that you see on the side of roads and stuff all the time. And it's clean. There's about 1/8 of an inch of water on it, upside down. So I'm putting water on the bottom, and then I put a light bulb underneath it, so it illuminates the white plastic, and it takes away all the shadows. And then just take pictures of bugs, and it comes out more sort of scientific. I think it's just a fun effect. It's pretty cool. So quite often we'll have photos that have a crooked horizon, and it happens, if you're doing something overhead, or you just sort of forget, and you get a tilted picture. And this one I did on purpose. It's almost got a 45-degree angle, but it's very, very easy. So there's my original photo. I'm going to press edit, brings the photo up to work on. And then in crop, the one with the squares and the arrows going like that, hit that, and you're going to get the frame around it. But I don't really need to crop it, but I'm going to get options on how the picture is aligned. And so the very first, there's 3, below straighten, there's 3 options. Then one has a line in the middle, like the equator on the Earth. And that's going to be aligning the picture so the horizon is level. And so there's a slider there. You can see the dot on it. That's the original default picture, but I've slid it over about 25 points And you're going to end up with this grid system, which is going to, help you align the horizon, and then you're done. That's basically, you just hit done and go. How many times do you get an email or a text of maybe a document or just a thing? But if you're shooting it at something at kind of an angle, the camera wants to align it the way it thinks it should be. And generally speaking, it's not perfect. And you'll get an email or a text with a picture that's sideways or upside down. It's real easy to fix. I generally get these upside down and sideways pictures, quickly fix them and send them back to the person and say, hey, did you mean to really send this? It'd be nice, sarcastically. So there's a spool of scientific angular tippet, and that's what it looks like in the real world. But I took a picture of it, and my camera thought it should go that way. Well, that's no big deal. You're going to hit edit again, the word edit, and you're going to hit crop, which is the square with the arrows going around. It's going to get a frame, but we don't want to crop it. No big deal. But look at the very top on the left. There's my white star again, and there's a box with one arrow pointing that way. You tap that, and it goes 90 degrees or 45 degrees. No, it goes 90 degrees each time you click it. And you can move a picture around in circles until you get it back to the original, the original real life shot in reality. And it takes a couple seconds, and it just is easier than sending out sideways pictures. Okay. Well, this one is probably the most important slide I'm going to show tonight. And it's a guy with a nice trout from New Zealand that I did not tap focus on the eye of the trout. The camera wants to focus on faces, and then some reason the background became absolutely tack sharp, and the fish didn't get any respect. So I took that picture and I looked at it and went, oh dear. And so you can see how blurry the eye is. And if a fish picture has a blurry eye, in my opinion, it's a delete. It'll never be able to be used for anything or sold. It's okay if that's the only picture you've got. Yeah, it's still a nice trout, but it's just not right. So I did it again. I just put my phone up. I tapped on the eye of the fish, always the eye. Don't worry about anything else. Tap focus on the eye and then take the picture. And then look at the difference. That is really nice. That fish is just beautiful now. Instead of kind of a fuzzy, what is it? It's just absolutely tack sharp. He's still in focus. And now the mountain's a little bit blurry, which is great. We want to sort of make the focus on the subject. In my opinion, it's the fish. It's the person second. And then obviously the scenery and the weather is all there. So that's pretty neat. So don't forget to tap focus anywhere on your screen, on anything in the picture, and that's where the camera is going to focus. Automatic timer, pretty handy. It's not super user-friendly. It'll take you a while once you're in your photos to activate it. Sometimes I just swipe up on my screen, obviously lens side, screen side. And sometimes if I just scroll up, like that time it worked the very first time, and you see there's these options down here. And the one that we want, I have to scroll over to a little bit. There it is. Oh, it's hard to see. I have to scroll it again, right? Oh, this is really hard to do. But anyway, it's right there. It's a circle with like a stopwatch second hand on it. So it's like a timer. And so you get it on there. And then I tap 10 seconds. You got 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Again, take a picture of the screen right now to remind you to work on this at home because it takes a few tries. Some phones are more temperamental on that swipe. Is it up? Is it down? Diagonal? You got to play with it a little bit. Don't play with it when there's a fish in the net. Play with it at home and get good at it. And it doesn't work as well if your fingers are wet. So you got dry fingers. So once you've got it set for 10 seconds, you take the picture. Okay, so you take the picture right there, hit the button, and then you'll get a countdown. And so if you've wedged your phone against a rock and your fish is in the net, so far so good. There's really no fish torture going on. And you do that and you get down to two. At two, you bring the fish up out of the water an inch and it'll take 10 photos instantly and you're done. One of those will be just perfect. But again, it's going to take a little bit of practice getting all that in sync. It's better to have a buddy take the picture. But if it's a really amazing fish and you're by yourself, you can do it. Wedge it against a rock, put it on the bank, something behind it, maybe something from your vest, prop up your phone, but have it all set up on automatic timer on 10 seconds before you go that way. And remember, the screen, you got to reverse it too. I'm sorry, I forgot the reverse selfie button. Reverse it so you're looking at yourself and the fish is still just in the net recovering and having a time of his life. So now here's a fun one. This is on the newer cameras also, where you can do a slow shutter speed blur. Now this used to be an old film trick where you'd put it on a tripod, take a picture of a waterfall or a babbling brook, and you'd leave the shutter open for 6 seconds. And if you didn't jiggle it at all, it came out very nice. Well, now we can do them, and this is the deal. So here's a neat little river in Iceland. In normal photo one, there's the guide and the angler and the waterfall in the background. Everything's frozen in time. It's a faster shutter speed. So now how did I get the blur photo on the right? Okay, here you go. You get in your regular photo mode, and up at the top right-hand corner, at least in my phone, is a circle with a line through it, and that's live, which is like a mini video. And the line means live's not on, and 99% of the time I don't use live. But for this case, I'm going to put my camera on a rock, a fence post, the hood of the car, anything super stable, because any little bit of shake, you're gonna lose the effect. So once it's really well stabilized, I take live off and on to on. So you got live on. You look at your picture, you very gently hit the button and hold it still for 3 or 4 seconds. I know a little bit of shake is pretty easy to do, but you can wedge it in on a rock or something pretty well. And then, okay, it takes the picture. You bring it up, you tap on it to bring it up so you can edit it. And now, this is the easy part. When you look at your picture, up in the left-hand corner will be the live icon, okay? And so you tap on it. And it's a drop down. And way down, there's one that says long exposure. Hit long exposure, wait a second, and it'll go into the blur. Everything stationary is tack sharp. Everything moving is blurred. And again, this is just an effect. It's not, you don't have to know how to do it. There's no rules in this thing. This is all fun and games, but it's fun to play with this. And it's fun to show someone how to do this because they get pretty turned on by it. It's like, cool. I love that, so get good at this. And it just opens up a whole nother category of photos for you. All right, let's move along. Again, take a picture of that right now so you can remind yourself to learn how to do the blur photo. All right, here's one from a neat little river in Nevada. Believe it or not, it has a fantastic salmon fly hatch. Who'd have thunk? But this is out in the middle of nowhere. I'm on a bridge. I just supported my phone on part of the bridge and a post. So I had it supported on the side and the bottom. I wedged it in there really, really hard and took the picture. And iPhones, don't be afraid to shoot right straight at the sun. iPhones are way better at shooting into the sun than even most of my big pro cameras and especially film cameras. But that's kind of a fun effect. And there's the old pro stuff with the big motor drive on the bottom. They were just so heavy. You wear that around your neck, it'll cripple you after a few years. So anyway, we're going to get into some uh, other things, but actually, I wanted to go back. I forgot one I wanted to mention. Okay, so let's assume that that tree on the right-hand side of the river, the one without any leaves on it, say that's a telephone pole. And it's easy to take out in Photoshop on your computer if you have it, but a lot of people don't have Photoshop. So on their new phones, they have a little tool called Clean Up. So what I did was I brought a photo up, and then I hit edit, and now I've got, I don't know if you can see that very well, but I've got these options down here. And one of them underneath it, it looks like a salt shaker, but I don't think it is. I don't know what it's supposed to be. But it says cleanup. So when you tap cleanup, it thinks about it for a minute, and now your finger is like a brush. And I could, on this picture with the sun in the background and that big dead tree, but we're going to say it's a telephone pole we want to remove, you just swipe your finger down that telephone pole, and then it'll leave a trail behind it, and then it'll pop off, and the telephone pole's gone. You can take people out of a photo. You can take wires out of a photo. You can take anything out, basically. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. So that's just something else. I didn't have that slide in this one, but it's fun to do. So remember, cleanup. All right, keep moving on. So now we're going to get into more, composition and having fun with photography. Once you have a good knowledge of all the modes and functions that a phone can do, which is mind-boggling because I think the average person uses 10% of the potential in the camera setting. So one thing that's nice about, well, probably the most important thing about having a smartphone is that it's always on you or close to you, in the car, in the boat, in your pocket, in your waiter pocket. I mean, I shoot underwater with my iPhone with nothing, just straight phone. Don't get underwater, take a picture. I don't feel real good about it because sometimes the charging port gets a little water in it, and it'll say, can't charge, blah blah blah. So that's sort of a bummer. But I usually use a housing. I'll show in a second. But you can just do things because it's always there. You can capture amazing weather phenomenon just because it's always on. You can capture animals and interesting stuff just because you have it on. And this is a good example of a black drake hack, southeast Oregon, where this whole house was covered in drakes. The fence was covered in drakes. People had them in their hair everywhere. It was a natural phenomenon, and it was just great because now you see something like that, click, got it. Now, in the old days, because you can tell this is old, that's an old System 2 reel. Green drake lands on it, and in the old days, you had to open up your box and get out a macro lens, take the other one off, put this one on, get over there, and focus and all that stuff. And now you just kind of move in with your iPhone, maybe on a 2 setting, not on the default 1, but on 2, a little bit of telephoto, and pop it. And so basically, without having that big heavy duty case, you've got macro, portrait, wide angle, telephoto underwater, and all in the palm of your hand. And then it's fun to start looking for photo ops. In this case, it's a salmon fly I tied, and then another salmon fly was walking up wanting to mate with it. So I was complimented by nature on my fly tying, but it's just also a story, a great one to show the natural and the artificial side by side, basically. And then there's a thing I've been using quite a while, and it's just nicknamed the magazine cover format for doing, say, fish heads like this golden dorado that have teeth, and they're just really neat looking. And so there's a couple things here. Editors like your subjects or fish to go from left to right, like we read. They want some space at the top for their, you know, logos and their name, and then some stuff on the bottom about what's in this issue. That's magazine cover format, and it's just nice to look at. It's appealing. It's supposed to sell the magazine. One thing that makes this one work is that the lens of my phone is at the fish's eye level. And whether it's right next to the water or up 4 inches or up a foot, that is where I shoot fish shots, because 99% of the time, if you've got it at eye level, you're going to have an anatomically correct fish, not too much back and no belly, or not too much belly, no back. They're just about perfect. And remember where we can use the volume buttons on top to take the picture? Well, this is a great spot to drop your hand down onto the surface of the water. So you feel your hands get wet, and then you're shooting right across the bottom of the water. It makes a really nice effect. And you can do it, you know, you can tilt your camera horizontal or vertical and get this shot. That low angle shot's great for fish. Most people, you know, catch a fish and they've been wading, and, you know, they've just created a whole bunch of mud and debris and little chaos. And they get the fish and they look up at the person because they don't know any better. They're just going to take a picture shooting down on the guy or woman. It's an angler, whoever. So, and what's it going to be? Yeah, there's a fish in his hands, her hands, and they're all like this, and you can't see the fish, and you're in a bunch of mud. So if you get down low, even if it's muddy water, if you get down low and shoot across the water at the fish and the angler too, it just looks a lot nicer. You get away from all the muddy water, and you get to show some background, some mountains or some weather that's interesting. There's a big barracuda. Now, that's not to make it look bigger. It's basically just made to get up close and personal with the teeth on this thing. And so that's kind of fun. Eyeball level. This one is a little above eyeball level, and but it's a nice grip, a nice hold. The fingers are behind the fin and under the fish, not grasping and squishing, but just supporting. The control of the fish is done by the tail hand, and we'll get into that in a minute. But it works. You got to work as kind of a team, and the more you take pictures with someone, the more you communicate on what you like to see. You know, like maybe tilt the photo or the fish a little bit to get more sun on it, or, you know, head towards me. So it's a little bit of an angle. I like a little angle on fish. The one with the barracuda is dramatic. It's sort of just to show the teeth, but I don't like straight across fish. They just kind of look like they're a fiberglass replica. They don't look very alive either. So coming at you a little bit, I like it. Just puts a little more intensity into the face of the fish. And then pictures, we take tons of fish pictures. They're great, but I like tackle also. It's just part of storytelling, what you used, what kind of lines. Those are obviously floating lines. And I'll do tackle as a subject, but I'll never do tackle as a subject with a fish, because the fish is number one, tackle is number 3 or 4. So, but that bottom left-hand photo shows a person just cradling that bonefish, and the hand is natural on the rod. And I don't think the rod has to be in all the photos. A lot of people have to have the rod in the photos because it kind of says, look at me, I'm a fly fisherman, and they think that's cool. I don't. I could care less. If you have a vest on and you look like a fly fisherman, fine, you're a fly fisherman. But you don't have to hold you'll see some in a minute where the people hold the reel up or put it on their shoulders, and it's just overkill. It's hard on the fish because it takes a long time to have those props as part of the photo. If it's natural and it doesn't take away anything from having the fish in the water and then up for the picture, then that's all right. The blur reel we can do now we never could do that on a digital phone because it didn't have a way to do that blur photo. And now it does. You can do blur of a spinning reel. And then it's a little bit of humor and fun. You know, just everybody got the memo about what to bring, what to wear on this trip. So adding a little bit of humor or just general information even on, this is a cold spot in Argentina. You've got to have a great raincoat and buff and sunglasses and etc. So a lot of storytelling is fun. It's just less boring. here's more storytelling. The big mouse on a Alaska rainbow, a weird looking little stimulator fly. For cutthroats, they just love it. And then real herring and herring imitation flies, and that's just part of storytelling. And then we're going to, everybody loves scenics, and we do it all the time. And here's a stormy day. It's pretty dramatic, Icelandic lava, basalt, landscape, and then waterfalls. And geez, this is just an amazing spot. But doing one photo, you could get, you get the waterfall and some of the rock, and this one's just river, but that's a pano, but it's only a 2/3 pano. So you still have some depth. And so sometimes when you're just shooting a basic scenic shot, do it, and then maybe do a half or 3/4 pano too to back it up. This is about a half, it's actually 5/8 pano, and there's just going to be a minute where that sun follows that ridge line. And I had to climb up a little bit because I wanted to isolate the angler against that silver water. If I'm down at stream level, I get half in the silver water and half disappears into that shade. So I climbed up a couple, maybe 10 feet up higher, shot down on it, and then had time to get a pano on that skyline of light on the rock. It just came out great for, just fishing along and look back and see it. And I go, oh, that's pretty neat. So again, having a phone handy. And if you have an old phone, you don't want to drop it in the river. New phones, not so much, as long as it's not deep. I've dropped mine a dozen times. But then you can also take precautions and have waterproof bags or just be more careful than I am. Here's elevated angles, which is, oops, I lost my charging cord. Hopefully the last time. There we go. So elevated shots, generally we speak of these as drone shots now. And so you can do a drone shot without a drone shot. Now, this is an old one. This is back in the day. And I was basically standing on a seat in a boat. I had a wooden pole just from the beach with, I think they call it a gorilla pod. It was a little bendable, flexible tripod. You could duct tape that or gorilla tape that onto the end of the stick, and then I'd screw my camera on it, put it on an automatic timer, kind of point it at the angler, and then I'd run it up and say it was 10 feet long. Well, my feet are at about 3 feet above the water, and then another 6.5 feet, and then 10 feet. So, I'm 20 feet high, and that shot is like a drone shot. And what you get from elevated photos, it's really fun because you see the color changes. So you got the sand, the turtle grass, or you have depth where it changes to deeper, darker blue. And so on wide angle, elevated in the old days was a stick and duct tape. Now I'm using this Bluetooth selfie stick that extends to about 10 feet, and it's really light. And if you look at it, has that little like garage door opener looking thing. Well, that sticks on the selfie. I hate calling it a selfie stick. I just call it an extension pole. Sounds more, there it is, extendable pole. And basically you push the button and it's Bluetooth to your phone to take the picture. So you hoist it up and there you are in the boat or something, or on a rock, and you're up really high, and you hit the Bluetooth and it takes pictures, boom, boom, boom. You don't have to go on automatic timer, get one picture, do it again, one picture. It's really, really fun. And it's lightweight. And look at that, it's $33.59 on Amazon. So elevated shots just show more of the river in the background. It's just different. Everything we do all day long, for me, it's at whatever this is, 5'4" or something, if you're 6 feet tall, you see everything at 5'8", but it's nice to see either a very low angle or a higher elevated shot, and it's just different. It's more unique and fun to look at. Off the bridges, always makes good shots. Climbed up this hill, getting the guys walking up this river in New Zealand. So now I can see the wiggles in the stream, the vastness of that meadow, still getting all the mountaintops in. So a lot of information in that photo with only a 4-minute little scramble up the hill to get it. I didn't use a pole here. I physically walked up to take an elevated shot. Same with this. Jumped out of the raft, ran up this little ridge, got above the raft, and fortunately the guide could just throw a beautiful tight loop, silhouetted the line against the dark background, got the scenery all in there. Beautiful. It just works. It took 10 minutes to get this shot, but it was definitely worth it. This is a pole shot from the boat. A friend is fishing these little pancake flats, and you get all the color changes, how the flats go back into the distance forever. And so elevated shots are fun. It takes a little bit of work, but the reward's there. Here's another one in Bikini Atoll where the boat's looks like it's floating on glass because it's up high and it's shooting down on it. We were out with the cook getting a grouper for dinner. Another New Zealand shot because the water is so beautiful there. Up on the hill, on this little bluff, down on the angler. Great landscape shots, low water, has a lot of information in here. It's there September, so it's probably April. And it's the time when the rivers drop. They're crystal clear. And elevation, again, shows those squiggles of the stream. And every fisherman knows that those cut banks are amazing spots. And this was just driving along, stopped. I probably took the picture out the window like I usually do, and click, and away we went. And that's down at Yamsey Ranch on the Williamson. Again, you get to see the curves of the river, get some action in there too. Works out good. Low angles, really fun. Again, when your knuckles touch the water, use your thumb on the volume button, shoot straight across eyeball level. I'm going to wear you out with eyeball level and tap focus. That's incredibly important. So, but here's a nice brown taken super low. And again, at eyeball level, anatomically correct. It's tilted just a little bit off center axis so it gets the right light, made all those sparkles. I've never been able to do that again. That was a one and done. And then low angle for sort of a hero shot. I don't always use, unless a person really wants to be in the picture, I prefer fish pictures to be about the fish and not show anglers' faces. And this is a nice grip. You could do this one either like steelhead guide grip or the reverse grip to show a little more of the fish. It's totally style. I prefer most of the time this traditional steelhead guide grip. It gives you more control because you can rotate the fish, you bring the tail up and down, and you can move the fish back and forth. This grip, it really limits you on how you can move the fish and control the fish. But anyway, gills are down in the water a little bit. It only takes a second to take this shot, but every scale is visible. And that's from a day that had bright shade. There was some cloud cover, but not real dark. And there was enough light getting through. It was very diffuse, very little shadowing. So that's very nice for macro shots of fish. And this is a by myself picture. Bring the fish up and shoot straight across at it. Naturally, you get the mountains in the background. Again, it's sort of a bright, cloudy day, so colors are good, scale detail is good, spotting is good, and no harsh, big, bright spots. That worked out really nice. Walking down a hill, two guides talking before we get in the boats. And as I walked down the hill, it brought them up. And so I got down pretty low and shot up at them to silhouette them against that fog and that sun. And that's just a matter of, thinking a little bit, because if I was up on the top of the hill shooting down, they'd just blend in the background. But as I got lower and lower and they came up, it was a nicer silhouette. Again, same thing. Angler's got, actually, it's not a bonefish or a tarpon or anything fancy. It's just a snapper, but he's fighting this fish. There's a lot going on here. Now, for one thing, this was a film photo, and I was on 36. And if you remember, that means that is your last photo. And there's obviously not time to change film because that sun's going to be gone in about a minute. So I'm going to have one shot. And I'm looking at John on the bow. Koki is the guide. And I think, oh, that's so pretty. And then I got a little lower. And then I kneeled down, really got my elbows in the water and shot with the sun underneath that little mangrove. And that made their silhouette come up higher. And Koki's in a nice, comfortable position. Got to watch guides, especially on flats boats, because once a fisherman hooks up, they start looking around. They're looking for the next fish. If they're looking one way and the fisherman's looking this way, it just doesn't look quite right. So you might have to throw in a little correction there. And then other times in this scenario, the angler sees the camera or the phone come up and then will just freeze and they'll stand like a statue because they think they should be still and not moving around too much. But actually, knees bent, arms bent, kind of, acting like a real fisherman and not just a statue. Very important. But that was one shot, came out pretty nice. And then backlit. And again, I mentioned earlier, iPhones shoot straight into the sun really well. And even if that brown trout had a few more spots on the tail, it would have been better. But still fun. You can play around with it. And if it's good, it's good. If it's not, you just throw it away. The boring bullseye. I hate to use so many percentages, but this is one more. 90% of pictures, I think, are probably boring bullseyes because we just got used to old cameras that the focus was right in the middle. So you put your family in the middle, you put the Christmas tree in the middle, everything was in the middle of the picture. And then as cameras got a little more sophisticated, you could highlight on a pro digital camera, DSLR, where you want the focus to be. In this case, and this is an old film shot, but in this case, you'd have your phone up and you could move it around. So you could put the red raft in a corner or up higher or somewhere else, but directly in the middle, tap focus, take the picture. So, and you could take 4 or 5, to try different compositions. I like some foreground sometimes with that it's in focus, that shows a curve. And then, this stuff's all style. It's what kind of socks you wear or how you comb your hair. Style isn't right or wrong. It's just how you like to do things. So you play around with it and you'll develop a style. It's kind of fun. This is my 30-second rule because this is a guy named Joel. He lives in Butte, Montana, and he used to guide in Chile. And I was down there and it was kind of guide's day off. So he starts fishing this little run and I'm walking by him and I kind of glance back. I thought, wow, that's pretty neat. That giant, massive rock mountain. He's throwing a nice loop. I'm looking, and I go, yeah, pretty good. But then I walk up a little higher and I walk out a little bit. And by walking out, I get all those real pretty rocks in the foreground. Okay, so I've walked up, I walked out, I take a couple more steps out to move him back against the darkest part of the background so he's better silhouetted. His line still looks good. Got the whole mountain in there and I've got the rocks. Click and go. Took 30 seconds from when I had the idea that that's a pretty nice photo to actually making it good, better, best. And the hero shot, we do them all the time, hopefully. And they're like a parachute atoms. And I use that analogy because you can look at a parachute atoms and go spot on, perfect dimensions, not too long, not too high of a wing, not the parachute or whatever. You can tell immediately that the proportions are perfect on the parachute atoms. And that's a problem with a hero shot because it's so simple. It's easy to have little flaws. And first of all, there's one that is one of my pet peeves, and his front hand is not between the pec fins, which is a solid, hard plate right here. And you can just support with your fingers spread out a little bit, support the fish. But he slipped it back into more of the gut cavity and it's soft. He's got a little curl and that's a gouge. And the heart is right there. And you've cleaned fish, the heart is right there. So that's strike 1. Strike 2 is very minimal, but it could be corrected. And if you look at his wader straps, the one on the right has flipped up his pocket. Now, that's like a parachute atoms of having it under hackled. You can go, oh, not enough hackle. Here you go, uh-oh, look at that pocket. It's not a perfect hero shot. So hero shots should be really, a little bit fastidious in quality because you have time. He's fighting that big king. You have time. You go, hey, do you want your glasses on or off? He can go, oh, off. Okay. And I go, okay, when you get him in and stuff, get down low because I'm going to shoot low and have the rod under your armpit facing backwards of your tail hand because this hand is always down and your front hand is up. So it'll fall out. So it's tail, armpit on the cork, support between the pec fins, lift up, and then maybe I'll say rotate back a little bit, and that'll give more shine on the fish, make them look really bright and nice and clean. So perfect hero shot. This is not, but it's close. It's really a nice fish. Here's a down low, kind of to get under the hat. There's going to be reflection off the water. It's me, but yep, support here, grip in the back, tap focus on the eye, shoot low, comes out pretty good. Now here's what happens when you do the reverse grip with smaller fish. And look at the elbows. Those elbows are just kind of icky, in a way. So it's not a good look. In that case, I would either try the single hand just above the water or the steelhead grip, which is this way as opposed to this way. But because those elbows curving in like that just kind of look horrible in my opinion. Here's the steelhead grip. And then the other grip. Now we get big fish like this black drum or redfish or big snook or tarpon. Your arms spread out, and so you can do that reverse grip, and it's fine because your elbows won't move in. But this was tap focus on the eye, eyeball level, and a little bit of flash up underneath their hats just to get skin tone looking good. Otherwise, it's just a big black shadow. And here we've got a big striped bass. And again, that kind of reverse grip on the tail is fine because it's such a big fish. It's going to work out fine. And plus the stripes on a striped bass go all the way to the tail. That's really pretty neat. And so here's a guy holding the fish. He's again moved his front hand a little bit back, too far, but not a serious gouge, but it's getting there. He's down low. I'm shooting low. Now, the only other thing in this picture I want to show you is it better with or without that railing? Because remember I showed you the cleanup where you press cleanup and then you rub your finger across the railing and take it out. So I'll show you an example. Now, it was easier for me to do it in Photoshop. So here's kind of what I did. There you can see disappearing the railing in Photoshop. It's pretty simple and easy, but if you don't have Photoshop, use the cleanup and take that railing out because in the end, I actually like it better without the railing. Some perfectionists or some ultra traditional photographers say, hey, it's in the picture. It's in the picture. You're playing God. You can't do that. And I said, oh, well, I did it. And I don't think it's a big deal. It's an inanimate object. I'm not adding a sunset or a sailboat or a jumping whale. It's just removing a kind of distracting railing, and no railing. You be the judge. A couple quick examples of do's and don'ts. These are all don'ts. Person in the upper left is a guide in New Zealand. He's a quality guide and a really good angler, but why take the picture of the rocks in the background? And it's a little too shallow. Even if that fish is dropped, it may not land on dry rocks, but it's going to land on those rocks. So that's just bad. Move out into the river. Get the river in the background instead of just rocks, okay? Middle picture, obviously a horrible planter, but it's a kid, so you can't say, don't even think about a picture. You're going to take a picture of a kid with one of his first big trout, but look at the fins and the tail are horrible. He'll grow out of that. He'll understand about wild fish. But if you see a lot of really big trout in Georgia and the Carolinas and stuff, a lot of them are hatchery stockers like these, and some of them aren't super pretty. Same with the next one over. There's no dorsal fin, hardly any tails. But, again, first fish, if it's important, yeah, you probably take a picture of it. The one on the bottom left, there's that huge streamer with a big, huge hook, barely hooked in the upper jaw, right in the nose, and a split shot on the leader. And it's dirty and awful looking. I mean, why would you do that? I mean, take the hook out and do a picture. It's also kind of rainbows and spawning colors aren't my thing. When they get, like Deschutes rainbows in May, they're getting, they're pretty dark red and they're darker. I just leave them alone. The blood, obviously, not good. And then the redfish, she's holding the redfish, and then someone put the rod on her forearm to say, look, I caught it on a fly rod. And then the polling pole is going through her head. So we could do a lot of things to improve that shot. I'd personally like to kind of hang over the side of the boat and then lift the fish up and have the person kind of lean out and take a picture of the fish right above the water and not even bring it in the water. Because 90% of the time, there's my percentages, that fish is going to flop around in the boat a couple times. Not good. The bottom fish, okay, it's a big golden dorado, but it's not a 180-pound golden dorado. That's a 15-pound golden dorado. And if you hold it out that far with straight elbows, you can triple, quadruple the size of a fish, and it's just not right. Sometimes people don't really even know they're doing it until they see the photo. But look at his body. Say he weighs 180 pounds. That fish is it looks like a 200-pounder. It's impossible. Plus, I don't care for the rod on the shoulder and rod on your neck. It's called the parrot because pirates had parrots on their shoulders. And so when you put your rod up there, I mean, why? Just put it away. Don't be fussing with it for so much time. Anyway, that's style. Now, the picture upper left may be the worst fish picture in the world. I don't know how it could be worse. It's first of all, it's a trigger fish. It's not that pretty one with all the neat markings and beautiful colors. It's kind of beat up. It looks like it got attacked by a osprey or a barracuda. The glasses, the buff, I mean, just, please. Anyhow, now moving over to the upper right, we got the guy showing off his rod and reel and making that the subject while he's doing a death gouge on that speckled trout. And poor thing, but he has to have that Nautilus reel in there and say, look at me, cool guy. Same thing with the billfish down below, big reel in the picture. That's a prop. The fish is now a part of the prop. There's nothing really going on here that's right. Try to just not do that. All your friends will appreciate it. The guy with the New York Yankees hat, I actually don't know how he really can hold this fish all backwards and upside down and big bloody spot on there. So that's just not so hot either. So you get the point. We can avoid all that. Just keep it simple. Respect the fish. The fisherman is second or third most important in a fish picture. All right, so we got a young kid here with a pike. I tap focus, eyeball level, and I want to show all that other stuff. And that's definitely not a boring bullseye. It's off on the side for a reason. I want to show habitat. This is on the Antioch River, which is a fast-flowing Alaska trout stream, but the sloughs have pike. So angler and fisherman on one side and the slough on the other. And that's just information, common sense information. And looking at the fish as opposed to looking at the camera, when you make eye contact with the lens with your eyes, it's immediately a human photo, a person photo. If you look at the fish, you kind of share the subject with the fish. And so in Europe, you never look at the camera. It's taboo. They don't do it. It's a bad thing. They respect the fish, look at it, that's fine. Here's the thing I see a lot, and I forgot to do it this time, pulling the sleeves down, because the skin on our wrist is really bright. And so pulling the sleeve down just keeps a uniform exposure on all things in the picture. Sometimes the shady side is the better side. If it's a bright day, the sunny side is often too bright, and the fish has a lot of reflection, especially steelhead, bonefish, tarpon. So sometimes moving around to the shady side gets a better fish, better scale detail, better spots. Adding a little action in the picture before this fish is unhooked and released, you get the big colorful streamer in there. That's good information. You got all that moving water. That's fun too. The pike coming out of the grass, so it's the natural habitat of where pike live, and it was just a simple lift. Oh, stop right there. This is really cool. We got the big yellow and red streamer. We got the grass all over it. It just really works. It's not planned out. It's not staged, but sometimes it's just right. And of course, early morning and late light are the best. It's got the most color in it. Things are very rich and colorful. Overhead lights more harsh and direct. And so this is a little bit of elevation to show all those islands in that lake in Eastern Oregon. And it's a wade lake for bass. And by going up a little higher, we got the beautiful colors and the separation of the islands. And late light too is making them look the best it can look, because out there, there's sometimes it's pretty harsh light. Finding little silhouettes in low light situations, it's very handy. This is low light in Fiji. It's almost, the sun's almost setting, but to get a little bit low, you silhouette the angler. And I like the back cast position for some of these photos. If I can see the line, well, I love a nice loop. That's great, but you wouldn't see the line here probably into the sun. But that back cast double haul, getting ready to launch, is kind of a nice athletic posture. Visible angler, well, when they're out in the middle of the river, that's fine. When they're on the bank fishing up, they just vanish because we wear clothes that are supposed to vanish. But it's nice when they step out to get a shot like that. And if you know Anna River, Anna Creek over in Central Oregon, that's a fun place. Drips are great. If it's pouring off the fish, even better. Just come up, get the drift, and let it go. Get the drips. And then with bass, it's okay to kind of cheat a little, because bass fishermen are just a little bit different. That when you catch a big bass, instead of holding it like this, which is all hand, you just rotate your wrist around there. So it's just the thumb and a few knuckles showing, and then hide your forearm behind the bass and you move it out a little bit, just 3 inches or 4 inches. And it makes the bass look a little bit bigger. But just hiding your arms, hiding your hand, not this is just too awkward. Then by yourself, again, this is the lift up and thumb on the side of the camera on the volume button, a quick shot and a release. Another one that's easy to do if the water's fairly clear is just to let it rest in the net, grab the tail, turn it over just about a 45-degree angle to get a nice side shot of it. And it's just breathing and recovering, a quick shot, and let it go. Little section on underwater stuff, and this is done with a housing, and I'll show you the housing in a second. And they're really the only way to go. I do drop my camera underwater on purpose and take pictures once in a while, but they're just not as good as a housing, because they have, if you buy the right one, it has a big dome, and that's the dome that you use to get very, very wide angle. So you get up close, because you lose your light so fast if you move back very far. You get up close to the fish, and you can do the half and half shot with the split above and below. So back in the film days, here's a North Santiam steelhead cut up by Mill City. And then when you get your film developed, 2 weeks later, you see your pictures, and there's a big boot in the picture that you didn't see, but now you can just take it out in Photoshop. But so here's what I use. It's an Axis Go, and this doesn't show the dome, but you order it with this big dome lens, and then you can get the half and half shots and things like that. Then again, even underwater, shoot at fish eyeball level, low angle, put my hand on the waves so it makes a slick, and that's sort of a slick you can see through to see the angler. It's an old film shot, but I still have it, and it's fun. But this is the perfect eyeball level underwater shot, anatomically correct, and that was fun. The split 50-50 shots, real easy to do, but you do have to have that type of housing. And then I put create here because, if you don't say anything, or you just kind of just take pictures and you're really polite and quiet, yeah, you'll do fine. But if you do a little creating or being a director, in this case, it was Easter in the Bahamas, fishing with a buddy, and this barracuda had whacked one of our bonefish. And so we decided to put on a popper and some wire leader and catch it. And so we fought it, and these kids came running over to check it out. And then this one kid said, "Hey, our dad wants to eat your fish." I said, "Well, okay. The bonefish will love that. But bring over your buddies, your cousins, or whatever they are. Bring them all out here, and I want to get a picture of you guys." So they stood there. And notice the guy holding the fish's head with all the teeth is the least happy. As it moves down the body, they get happier. But cute kids, just great scenario, great story. But I ended up trading my fish for 2 beers. So that's the creation part. And then the other stuff that's good filler, in movies they call it B-roll, the stuff that supports the main storyline. And so this was a picture of an older gentleman with a bonefish tattoo before people were doing tattoos. Old sailors did, but this guy had a bonefish tattoo way back in the day. That was hilarious. Sort of a Miller time picture with some beers and fly reels, maps with the sunglasses, just all filler material, fun license plates. There's a Russian Snickers bar from Kamchatka back in the day, a Chilean wine that says Chile on the cork. So that's, again, fun, gives information, worthless money in Sierra Leone. It was worth about $5. And then wildlife, birds, butterflies, reptiles, mammals. It's just fun to have those as part of our storyline because we all love wildlife. And there's a boring bullseye. I knew someone would say that. But I was in a moving boat, so I didn't have time to get too creative, but I can crop it in a different way so it's not a boring bullseye. Just wildlife is fun in general, adds to the excitement of a trip. There's Tom Rosenbauer. We were fishing the Delaware River, and I tap focused on him, and I dropped down into the grass and took the picture, so it made that blurry kind of effect. Just accidental, no professional form at all. It was just a playing around with the camera, and it kind of comes out neat. Fill flash, when you have bright sun, harsh light, and you have to get some light under the hat, works pretty nice. There's in the Amazon where it's really overhead and super intense, but having a little flash goes back to perfect skin tone without blowing the fish out. Drama. Well, there's drama in everything, but fly fishing has its moments too, especially when there's aircraft or helicopters, jet boats. In this case, it was my friend Todd's brand new in the day Toyota 4Runner, and we're going across this bridge, and there's a flash flood. Even though it was a good watershed, it wasn't muddy, but it rose up to the level with the bridge, and it was swaying the bridge. It was about to go. I said, Todd, stop. This is really dramatic. I want to get a picture. And he's yelling and screaming at me like I'm crazy, but you can see there's ice on the bridge. There's water's about to wash out the bridge. That was good drama. Play around with cropping a little bit so it's guide and angler with a big rainbow, but easy to just do the fish by cropping. Again, hit duplicate, crop one, make it a second photo. You can crop it 2 or 3 times if you want. What fish eat, it's fascinating to me. It's probably fascinating to most fly anglers, but all the bugs, all the crayfish, bait fish, terrestrials, mayflies, stoneflies, caddisflies, it's all just great stuff. And again, get a little bit farther back than you think, and then crop in on it. This trout sort of burped up all these baby, probably sockeye, since they're the most prevalent. But now you know that a small white woolly bugger or a little clouser is going to be the right fly to use. So this is, again, more information. It's not super artistic. That's not the case here. I like editorial photography, which is about information. And there's that little aquatic insect studio shot again. They just come out beautiful. You have to have light underneath a white object, and then it takes away all the shadows. It's really fun. And there's a pretty good macro shot, again, a squala nymph, I believe, and it was taken from way far back, but then cropped in, and you still got the segmentations on the antennas and the good sharp eyes. It came out nice. This is stream collecting insects cleaned up in nice good water and put into that white background. And if I had a 12-foot wall in my house, I'd love this blowing up 12 feet. And I think that's beautiful art. Action is sort of, it's a busy moving around, boating around, lots going on in fly fishing. We don't just stand there forever, or we don't just sit in the boat and dunk a worm. There's a lot going on. Jumping fish like this takes a little luck, I'll be the first to admit, but it's worth trying to get. You kind of try to get in the right position to get the shot. And if it happens, you got a good chance to get it. A casting shot like this, it's kind of fun. Jumping shot, even though that fish jumped towards me sort of out of focus and it's a little bit blurry, it's still cool in that it's a great scene. I saw the fish rise, he saw the fish rise, I got ready for the shot and got it. It just ended up not jumping where he took the fly or farther away to be in focus, but that's just the way it goes. But it's all about being ready. Portrait mode, you can isolate wildflowers so it's more artistic. Big color, if you find it, use it, because we got a lot of greens and blues in our world, but reds and other colors are hard to find, and they're just fun when you get it. And of course, sunsets and sunrises. And mood is a tough thing to capture in fly fishing, but this is the last pool. The angler's tired. He's just sort of dragging. He's getting out there for a few more casts, but it just shows a very peaceful, serene background. The landscape's not super exciting, but it's just a nice mood shot. Very hard to get, but when you get them, it's fun. Again, humor is fun to throw in. Fishing's fun, and we're always joking around and playing tricks on each other. But here's my buddy John, who was taking a picture of some bear poop and broke his rod, stepped on his rod. I think that's hilarious. So John didn't think it was hilarious, but you got to get a picture of it. And if you're at a fishing camp or a friend's house, you send your plate back with a happy face on it. That's good. You know, breaking your rod apart, putting the pieces into the hay bale, hanging your boots on it. It's fun. It's stupid. It's immature, but it gets a chuckle. There's Tom again, Tom Rosenbauer at a media day at Orvis. He's showing all these different. Each one of these photographers represents a magazine, and back in the day it was Fly Rod and Reel. There's Ross with Fly Fisherman, Fly Fusion up in Canada, et cetera, et cetera. Gray Sporting Journal. But I thought the cool picture was to get behind Tom and shoot all the guys taking the pictures. But just another way of looking at things. And this is it. I'm going to let you guys go home here in a minute, but just fly fishing photography is a great companion hobby. A lot of sports you really can't, if you're a show jumper, hunter jumper on a horseback, you're not taking any pictures. And if you're in motorsports, you're not taking any pictures. Fortunately, we've got beautiful scenery, friends, family, and great light, beautiful stuff. And I think it's just the best companion fly fishing has is photography. And these pictures last forever. Old slides would wear out and get scratchy and dusty. These digital shots are going to last forever. So questions and comments can go to my email right there. And if it's a year from now, that's fine. You might think of something, or you might want to show off a photo, send it to me. I'd love to see it. I have a very, very basic homemade website. It's not that good, but there's a few pictures on there. And on Instagram, I'm Brian O'Keefe Photos. So I probably went too long, but
no, not at all, Brian. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.